Welcome to Beyond the Noticeboard. I'm Stephanie Aikman. I'm a parish counsellor, a community volunteer, a charity chair and founder of Stabby Business Management, based in Upteen, part of Chequer Parish in the Staffordshire Moorlands. And I'm here to bring you stories that usually stay behind the noticeboard. And if you've just found this podcast, Beyond the Noticeboard is all about the unseen efforts that keeps the communities functioning. So it's for the community who wonder what decisions are being made. So the volunteers who keep showing up, and it's for anybody and everybody who cares about making local life better. It's not just about headline grabbing initiatives or the glossy press releases. It's about the real work. So it's about the paperwork, the phone calls, walking in muddy fields, and the coordination behind the project launches and the hours that are put in when nobody else is around. So in the last episode, we focused on the challenges with flooding, the sewage, the overflows, and the poor state of the River Tean. And it's a topic that stirred a lot of conversation. So we covered how often the pollution occurs, how overwhelming the infrastructure plays a role, and how the community members have stepped in just to protect public health. So if you missed it, it's still available on my channel. So do go back and have a listen or a watch after this episode. I do recommend giving it a listen, as it's setting the stage for what we're discussing today. So picking up from last time, up to right where we left off, where we talked about the sewage, the overflows, the environmental issues that we identified, and the community-led solutions that are beginning to take shape. So we're zooming in on a project this time called Nature in Your Neighbourhood. And it's one of those initiatives that can easily be overlooked if you're not directly involved, but its potential impact is quite enormous, especially for places like ours where we've got flooding and sewage issues and they're part of daily life. So the project that I'm going to be talking about today it's not about waiting for authorities to fix everything. It's about understanding where we live, the land we live on, noticing what's happening and having the tools to be able to monitor and care for it. So I just thought it was a brilliant, perfect follow-on, because we'll be looking at how the local green spaces, including those that have been affected by pollution and poor drainage, how they can be restored, how they can be cared for, and how they can be better understood. So what is Nature in Your Neighbourhood? Nature in Your Neighbourhood is a 5-year community-led project, and it's been funded by the National Lottery Community Fund. So its main aim is to empower the local people, the local community, to be able to restore, protect and understand your green spaces. So what does that mean in practice? Really, it means that local volunteers will be getting training to monitor things like the soil quality, the water quality, insect life, plant diversity, and just how different habits are changing over time. So it means recognising that change doesn't happen in isolation, that it happens through observation, through collaboration and the sustained effort. So we're backing from organisations like the Staffordshire Wildlife Trust, the Keele University, Moorlands Climate Action. This project gives us some academic rigour and on-the-ground experience. So it's not just a few tree planting or path clearances. It's about giving us the tools and the knowledge to understand what's happening on the doorstep and how we can take care of it for the longer term. So it's the kind of local monitoring that will give us real data. So it'll show the impact of pollution, of the climate change, habit loss, and over time it'll help us guide better decisions, and it'll mean that we can implement more sustainable action. So the data that we'll receive from doing all the testing and checking everywhere will provide evidence for any environmental decline or improvement, and it'll give us the language so that we can advocate for the community and for action when it's needed. And obviously for communities like ours, where we're already dealing with the flooding and the sewage issues, it really couldn't be more relevant, really. It just really fits in with what's been going on and what we talked about in my episode 1 of Beyond the Noticeboard. So now I want to talk a bit about how the community can get involved, so how you can help with this project. So I just want to take you through the journey from our side, the part that hasn't been put out there, it hasn't been publicised, and it hasn't been stuck on the notice board. So back in May 2024, the Parish Council submitted nominations for Jubilee Park and Wild Meadow Gardens. Now, if you've never seen or visited Jubilee Park or Wild Meadow Gardens, I'll just show you a little brief picture on my video podcast. So the first picture you're seeing is the picture of Jubilee Park, and that's the exact area that you're looking at right now is the sensory garden. And then the other site that's been nominated is Wild Meadow Gardens, as you can see from the picture now. So they're quite two really important areas for our community, for where the community can get involved. So back in May, we nominated those sites. I mean, the process wasn't quick. We had to identify the areas that would benefit from the monitoring and community engagement, but gather some background information. I've been liaising with the parish clerk, and she's done a brilliant job coordinating all the paperwork and applying for the nomination. So then it was a wait. It wasn't until November 2024, so November last year, that we actually received confirmation that our nominated sites have been accepted. And that felt like quite a win, really. It wasn't dramatic, but it validated really the prep and the planning that we've been going into, and obviously identifying the sites that we've nominated. So then roll on to February this year, February 2025. Staffordshire Wildlife Trust visited us. I joined with the clerk and the representative from Staffordshire Wildlife Trust, and we spoke about our vision for the spaces. We had a look around the sites, had a walk around the sites, assessed while we were there, identified the kind of biodiversity that we've got on there, and we talked about how we were going to connect with local people to the project. So I did talk about how to embed the work into like the community efforts that are going on elsewhere beyond the notice board. So I did mention our event, our VE80 picnic in the park and duck races, which is happening on the 5th of May. So I did suggest back in February that would be a good event to get to meet some of the community, to be able to share the project and to do some training as well. So rolling on to April of this year, just over a week ago, a Staffordshire Wildlife Trust person attended the full parish council meeting. They presented the project to the other councillors, and they answered any questions that the councillors had got, and all of the council were really supportive. So they've agreed on specific areas of both of the sites that we're going to study. We'd already picked an area for the Wild Meadow Garden site, and that was an area where the orchard, where we planted the trees the other year. So there'll be a small area that we'll like section off, and that's where we'll do all our testing from. And then one of our councillors really wanted the sensory garden included in that testing area. So the sensory garden on Jubilee Park will be one of our testing areas too. I mean, I did ask at the meeting, and I asked the representative, and I did say I bet we'll need two sites, two specific surveying sites anyway, one for each of the sites that we've nominated, and they agreed. So we've officially decided which two sections of each of those sites where we'll take like soil sampling from, and where we'll do drawings and stuff from. So since April, where we agreed the areas of both the sites, and where we discussed where we'll carry out the surveys and where we'll introduce further improvements, within a matter of days, it was around 2 days, we received the what's called a memorandum of understanding. So it's not glorious work, it's not glamorous, but it's basically, the document talks about who's the owner of the land, who's going to be responsible, is there any insurance involved, who's going to be sourcing helping to find the volunteers, who's going to be in charge of the volunteers, who will be in charge of the testing, all those different things, and will be involved in the project for our area. So we've decided on that, and we've signed the memorandum of understanding. So now it's all completely official. So it's been 11 months, nearly a year of behind the notice board work. So like, progress in community settings, it can be quite slow, steady, and it's very people powered. But we're now on track to the monitoring and the planning improvements. So there's been a lot of chasing paperwork, walking the sites, liaising with partners, and coordinating with event planners, and none of it's quick, but all of it is really, really important. So So that's why I'm talking about it on my Beyond the Notice board, because it's all of the things that we don't really see going on in the background. So now I want to talk a little bit about why projects like this really matter and why local monitoring can make a big difference in our area. So projects in the like Nature in Your Neighbourhood, they'll give us something that we've been missing. So it's like a structured way so we can understand what's been happening environmentally, so that we've got an understanding of what's going on, so we don't feel so powerless. So it's a way for us to finally understand the real environmental impact of everything that we talked about in episode 1, where we talked about the pollution, the overflows, the contaminations of the river. This all where we're faced with situations like the raw sewage or the foam, and we can feel quite powerless at times. But with this training and the monitoring and the consistent survey, that will enable us to build a picture, so a long-term detailed view of how the green spaces are coping and what will need to change. So the testing will give us a baseline. It's the difference between evidence and real data, between the speculation, and it'll provide us with a lot of proof. So with some training from Staffordshire Wildlife Trust, Keele University and Moorlands Climate Action, we'll be learning how to monitor the soil health. So we'll be learning how to take samples and be able to read those samples, and it'll be same for the water health as well on those sites. So we'll be able to take samples from the water and we'll be able to determine the health of the water. So this will help us with the biodiversity and the habitat conditions, so that we can learn what is wrong with the site, what the pollutants are, and we'll then know the steps and the procedures that we can take to combat those solutions and those pollutants. So it's kind of like a before monitoring, and then what we then do is we'll then implement a load of different procedures and improvements in those sites. And then after we've implemented those procedures and improvements, we'll then retest all of the site again. So we'll take soil samples and water samples again. And that will give us a before and after baseline monitoring. So it'll give us the proof, the evidence, a record of what's really going on. And that's quite important. It's really important, because when you're trying to advocate for the better infrastructure, for more sustainable planning, with all the planning we're having, or for the urgent clean-up efforts, where we've had to clean up the park on ourselves when it's had the sewage overflow, this will give us a really good baseline and proof to say this is what's going on, this is the pollutants, we need your help. So we're not just reacting, we're going to be learning, we'll be documenting, and we'll become a part of the whole solution. So that's a big shift that's worth celebrating, because everybody who lives here, who's using all the spaces and caring for the spaces, we're all the ones who are really seeing what's going on beyond the notice board. So we know all of the bad things that are happening. We're seeing all of the pollution incidents. We're seeing the change in the biodiversity in the habitat. So we'll then have that evidence and all of that information that we need to back up what we're already seeing and what we're saying, which will go a very far way when it comes to dealing with the Environment Agency and with Severn Trent in regards to the flooding, the sewage, the pollution. So it'll give us a really big data evidence to help us. So next I want to talk about how you can get involved. So what's happening next, how you can join us. So our next big focus is going to be during the VE Day 80 picnic in the park, which is on Monday the 5th of May. So this event runs from 12 till 5 p.m. and we've run it the last couple of years. So it'll be packed with entertainment, it's got activities, and there's a really big opportunity to learn about Nature in Your Neighbourhood project firsthand. So we'll have representatives from Staffordshire Wildlife Trust, from Keele University and Moorlands Climate Action, and they'll be on site at Jubilee Park throughout the event. So they'll have their own stand and their own gazebo, and they're going to be right next to the sensory garden, which is one of our designated survey areas. So they'll be available to chat, they'll be able to answer questions, they can explain the project to you, and they can show you how you can get involved. And even during the event, we'll be having training sessions happening on the day. So anybody who wants to learn how to carry out the surveys, who wants to support the project long term, if you want to if you are really interested in the volunteering and carrying out the surveys, or you want to know more, just please stop by the stand, because it isn't just for the experts. If you're curious, you're welcome. If you're passionate about where you live, you're needed, because it's a project for the community, and it's a way that the community can get involved in helping to improve their area. And another really simple way to get involved is by filling in the Nature in Your Neighbourhood survey. So the Nature in Your Neighbourhood, if you're part of the Friends of River Tean group, it's just been posted in there by one of the people who's running it, Alana. She's just posted in the group about this survey, and basically this survey will help us to understand how the local people feel about the green spaces, and it will help us to understand what kind of changes you want to see. So that we can then implement those changes, and we can improve the biodiversity and improve those green spaces for everybody in the community. So if you can take a moment to fill in one of the surveys, I have got a few printed copies available. So if you want to drop me a message, pop me an email, or give me a call, my number, my address, pretty much everywhere on the Parish Council website, then do reach out to me, and I can you can come and collect a paper version. But there is also a digital version. It has been shared in the Friends of the River Tean group, but I'll also share it on my social media pages, and I'll share it in the parish community page on Facebook as well, so that you can all get your hands on the digital version if you want to. But I really, really would like if you could really take part in the survey. It really will help us going forward with anything that we then take forward and what we do in the areas that have been nominated. So please just pop me a message if you want a paper copy, or pop me a message if you don't want to have to go looking for the digital copy, and I can send you a link straight away. But it's your chance to help shape the future of our green spaces. So it's not just about the wildlife and the habitat and the biodiversity, it's about the whole community. So if you're connected to a community group, you're connected to an organisation, and you've got people who'd want to come here and who'd want to help out, do reach out to us, because the more involvement that we've got, the stronger this whole Nature in Your Neighbourhood project will become. So please do pop me a message if you would like a paper copy, or pop me a message if you want the link. But I will post the links throughout all of the different things. And please do come to us on May the 5th during our bank holiday event. There'll be a stand there and you can talk to everybody there, because we need everybody involved, and it'd be brilliant if we can get you involved too. So that's all about Nature in Your Neighbourhood. Now I want to talk about why stories like these really matter, and why they matter to our community. And I'm telling you this because projects like these, they aren't just happening in the background, they're happening because the people out there, the community members, are putting their time and their effort into them. And if we don't talk about them, you can miss them. There's that much going on online, on social media, that you can miss so many things out there that are going on. So this podcast is all about sharing everything that's going on beyond the notice board. And it's so that we can talk about them, because projects like this, they don't just happen. They take coordination, there's meetings, there's decisions, there's follow-ups, there's site visits, then you've got your trust building. And it's a lot of time being given from different community members that it needs shouting about and it needs talking about. So this podcast is all about making the invisible work visible. So when you next see a bench in a park, or you hear about a community survey, or you notice some volunteers out with clipboards, then you know that that's come from all the different hours of all the effort that's been going on beyond the notice board. And all that effort that goes on beyond is what keeps our community strong. It's not just the outcomes, but it's the whole process through everything that we do. So it's the decisions made in the meetings, it's the back and forth emails, it's the phone calls, and it's the people who follow it all up, because it's so easy to just drop everything and not keep it going. And that's the kind of work that most people never see, because it's not stuck to the notice board, it's not always in the headlines, but it is the kind of work that's keeping our community moving forward. And that's exactly why my podcast exists. It's to highlight what's happening in our villages, what's going on in our parishes and across the Staffordshire Moorlands. It's everything that's beyond the notice board. So I just want to say thank you for tuning in to episode 2 of Beyond the Noticeboard, monitoring what matters. And if this is the kind of thing that you're really passionate about, the community work, the honest conversations, all the projects that make a difference, please do subscribe and feel free to share the episode with someone who might be interested. And if you'd like to be involved in this project or any others we've talked about, drop me a message because I'd love to hear from you. Or just pop along to the May 5th event where it's going on between 12 and 5 p.m. I'll be on site, so you can pop along to me and speak to me if you want. And we'll have the representatives from Staffordshire Wildlife Trust, Moorlands Climate Action, and they'll be there to talk to you, and a Keele University representative as well, to talk to you about the project and to implement some training if you are interested in getting involved. So I'm looking forward to seeing you next time, and we'll be taking a look at more of the everyday work that keeps communities like ours going, even when it doesn't always get seen. So thank you for listening to Beyond the Noticeboard. Please subscribe. There'll be new episodes every week. Thank you very much and take care.